It's Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Are we starting to finally drain the swamp? Hunter Biden waxes poetic about crack, and a major hack goes under the radar. Next on the AM Update. The Department of Justice confirmed Monday it's received Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's criminal referral related to her bombshell claims that Obama-era officials manufactured and politicized intelligence to create the massive narrative that Russia was attempting to influence the 2016 presidential election. The Department of Justice declined to further comment, but confirmed to media that the department received the referral. Gabbard released unclassified documents Friday that reportedly show overwhelming evidence that then-President Barack Obama and his national security team laid the groundwork for what would be the years-long Trump-Russia collusion probe after Trump's election win against Hillary Clinton. Gabbard wrote in a post on X, their goal was to usurp President Trump and subvert the will of the American people. She went on to say, no matter how powerful, every person involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The integrity of our democratic republic depends on it. We're turning over all documents to the DOJ for criminal referral. Gabbard joined Fox News on Sunday and said there's more where that's coming from.
There's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So yes, next week we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it. And that's really the point here that I think is most important, Maria, and you said it in your opening. Accountability is essential for the future of our country, for the American people to have any sense of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic. Accountability, action, prosecution, indictments for those who are responsible for trying to steal our democracy is essential for us to make sure that this never happens to our country again.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was not done declassifying previously classified documents. I'll tell you more about that later. But first, Republican Representative Paulina Luna referred embattled Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell for prosecution Monday after he allegedly lied to Congress about $2.5 billion in renovations for new headquarters rivaling the Palace of Versailles in its opulence. Jerome Powell, during a Senate Banking Committee hearing, denied his plans, or those accusations about the opulence plans for the new Federal Reserve building, including a VIP dining room and roof terrace gardens. He said these renovations were serious and that they were needed for the building that was constructed in 1935. Representative Paulina Luna wrote, quote, according to the Federal Reserve's final submission to the National Capital Planning Commission, nearly all of these assertions that he made are contradicted by the actual project plans. The Federal Reserve Board conducted a comprehensive renovation of the Eccles building from 1999 to 2003, which included the replacement of the roof, all major systems, and a full refurbishing of interior and courtyard spaces. And this is not the only person, that would be Representative Luna, who's convinced that the Fed needs a good old-fashioned audit. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
What we need to do is examine the entire Federal Reserve institution and whether they have been successful. There was fear-mongering over tariffs, and thus far we have seen very little, if any, inflation. We've had great inflation numbers. So, I think this idea of them not being able to break out of a certain mindset, all these PhDs over there, I don't know what they do.
See, I'm not convinced, actually. Here's a literal miniature air analysis. I'm not actually convinced that Jerome Powell is guilty of any of this. Of course, $2.5 billion. That's a big price tag, and I'm always good with the government audit and trying to slash as much as possible. But this is just the definition of applying pressure and wielding power. You see a unified message there, both from a Congresswoman and Paulina Luna and the Treasury Secretary appointed by President Trump himself. They're trying to turn the screws on Jerome Powell to force a resignation so they can, of course, install their own Fed Reserve chairman. That's just good old-fashioned wielding of power. President Trump has sued Wall Street Journal for defamation after that outlet published an article saying that Trump sent his then friend Jeffrey Epstein a bawdy letter for Epstein's 50th birthday. Trump, who denies writing the letter, is seeking damages of no less than $10 billion. Named as defendants in the suit in federal court in the Southern District of Florida are Murdoch, his company News Corp, and its CEO Robert Thompson, the journal's publisher Dow Jones and Company, and the two reporters who wrote the article published Thursday evening. This story was just, on its face, it was too perfect. Too perfect of timing. Oh, of course Trump's got this weird relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and it just so happens to drop at the perfect time when Trump seems to be hedging on the fact that he doesn't think that there's really much to the Epstein list or Epstein documents. Of course, Trump, in the aftermath of that Wall Street Journal hit piece, decided to direct the DOJ to release the grand jury findings when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. Trump has a recent track record of having success with these defamation lawsuits, having settled with CBS not that long ago for their deceptively edited Kamala Harris interview on CBS 60 Minutes. Speaking of track record, here's White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt, who ran down the list of items they're proud to have accomplished after 6 months in office. That 6-month benchmark was just yesterday.
It's been a pleasure to work with all of you day in and day out here at the White House. 6 months, the most transparent administration in history, if I may add. And I know the president just wanted me to highlight his accomplishments over the past 6 months. As you all remember, because you all covered it on the campaign trail, the president really promised the American people many things. But at the top of that list was to defeat the Biden inflation crisis and to secure our border and our homeland. And I think you've all seen in 6 months' time, the president has delivered on those two core campaign promises. Inflation is now running at a 2.1% annual rate. You look at our southern border, look at the numbers. Just last month, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country. And then look at what the president has done on the world stage. He has ended wars like India and Pakistan. He continues to work aggressively to end the war in Russia and Ukraine. He completely obliterated Iran's nuclear sites. He has continued to hopefully negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza to end that conflict and release all of the hostages. We've seen many of the hostages released as a result of this president's efforts. And this president is working around the clock every day to deliver on the promises he made. You also look at some of the cultural issues, to abolish DEI from our federal government and our military, to effectively end men and women's sports, which is a huge common sense policy that the American people support. And then if you look at the president's strong executive orders that have effectively ended the chemical castration of young children in our country. Just today, Washington, D.C. Children's Hospital in this city has announced they are no longer going to be prescribing puberty blockers to minors. This is a huge win for America and our children. There's certainly more work to do, and the president is doing it right now, and he will continue for the next 3.5 years. But certainly we've accomplished so much in just 6 months.
On the topic of illegal immigration, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller says we need to remember what's really at stake when it comes to the Great Replacement.
Who lives in your country determines what your country is, right? Haiti doesn't work as a country. Like, it just doesn't. People have tried forever. People have spent billions of dollars trying to make Haiti work as a project. Haiti doesn't work. If you take Haiti and you move it to America, it's not going to work here. Somalia doesn't work as a country, has never worked as a country. You take Somalia out of Somalia, you put it here, it's not going to work any better. It's not about how you feel about an individual immigrant. It's about the policy at a systemic scale. If you move the third world to the first world, eventually we become the third world.
Said it once, said it 100 times, import the third world, become the third world. Quickly this before the break, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, that would be U.S. Ambassador to Israel. Well, he was not happy over the weekend, including a veiled threat against authorities in Israel about the treatment of Christians in that country, including Christians in Gaza, as aggressive settlers in Gaza continue to discriminate against and try to intimidate Christians in that area. He was not happy over the weekend and expressed that in several statements, both officially and on X. Well, he said that after meetings with the Minister of the Interior and with the help of the Israeli Prime Minister, that would be Benjamin Netanyahu, he says that the issue concerning visas for American evangelical organizations has been fully resolved. He said starting in January, a change in the manner in which visas for Christian organizations had been processed for decades led to serious challenges bureaucratically and financially for the groups. Upon arriving in Israel as ambassador, he learned that the changes in the process were creating delays, costs, and significant burdens with paperwork. They said those issues discriminating against Christians. That's basically what he's saying, is that the Department of the Interior, or the Minister of the Interior for Israel, was discriminating against Christians. He says those issues have been resolved. Well, when we come back, waxing poetic about crack cocaine, we'll hear from Hunter Biden, and a major hack goes under the radar. It's coming up next. Come with me on a journey of discovery. Here's former first son, Hunter Biden.
No. Do you know what I mean?
Well, because they think cocaine, Scarface, very cool. Yeah. Crack cocaine, they think The Wire.
Oh, in that sense? Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
They don't know how similar the chemical compounds are.
Well, the only difference between crack cocaine and cocaine is sodium bicarbonate and water and heat, literally. That's it.
And those things are pretty much free if you go to, like, a science store.
This is free. You can go to your neighborhood convenience store and just get. Anyway, I don't want to tell people how to make crack cocaine, but it literally is a mayonnaise jar, cocaine, and baking soda.
How different is the experience?
It's vastly, vastly different. And like for real, I feel really reluctant to kind of have some euphoric discussion. I know you're not asking me to do that, but have some euphoric discussion about crack cocaine.
I think this might be kind of the opposite here.
Okay, no, it's the exact opposite. I'm saying I don't want to have the experience of some euphoric recall. That's how powerful crack cocaine is. Does crack cocaine make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably.
Good morning. I bet you didn't know all that about crack. Thank you, teacher Hunter Biden, for educating us and illuminating us that crack cocaine is less dangerous than alcohol. Well, I thought this story kind of went under the radar. At least, not enough people are talking about it. A sweeping cyber espionage operation targeting Microsoft server software compromised about 100 organizations as of the weekend. Microsoft on Saturday issued an alert about active attacks on self-hosted SharePoint servers, which are widely used by organizations to share documents and collaborate within organizations. SharePoint instances run off Microsoft servers were unaffected, dubbed a zero-day because it actually leverages a previously undisclosed digital weakness. The hacks allow spies to penetrate vulnerable servers and potentially drop a backdoor to secure continuous access to victim organizations. Vaisha Bernard, the chief hacker at iSecurity, a Netherlands-based cybersecurity firm, which discovered the hacking campaign targeting one of its clients on Friday, said that an internet scan carried out with the Shadow Server Foundation uncovered nearly 100 victims altogether, and that was before the technique behind the hack was actually understood. Another researcher said that so far the spying appeared to be the work of a single hacker or set of hackers. Microsoft said it provided security updates and encourages customers to install them. It was not clear who was behind the ongoing hack, but Alphabet's Google, which has visibility into wide swaths of internet traffic, said it tied at least some of the hacks to a China Nexus threat actor. Word on the street is some of these hackers, or hacker, singular, actually was able to penetrate systems within the U.S. federal government. Well, I said earlier that Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was not done declassifying documents. She announced the release of over 230,000 files related to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in response to an executive order from President Donald Trump. Gabbard said in a statement, quote, "The American people have waited nearly 60 years to see the full scope of the federal government's investigation into Dr. King's assassination. Under President Trump's leadership, we are ensuring that no stone is left unturned in our mission to deliver complete transparency. The files are being released as part of Trump's commitment to release previously classified documents related to King, as well as President John F. Kennedy and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. The latest batch of files includes details about the investigation conducted by the FBI into King's assassination." And now here's this. Dr. Marty Makary, he is the commissioner of the FDA, talked to the Epoch Times about the COVID jab and just how it's affected him personally, at least those who he loves.
We're committed to that, and I don't want people to think that, we're blowing off the safety signal that many people have described. I personally know of people who have been injured by the vaccine. I personally know of friends who have lost a loved one from the mRNA COVID vaccine. So I think it is reasonable at this time to say we want good, solid, definitive data. And the conditional limited approval of the COVID vaccines is in that framework that we want to see a proper data set come to us so we can take a good look at that data.
You mentioned you're aware of some people who have been injured and even lost a loved one through these mRNA products. There's a kind of a whole movement of people, for example, React 19 is, I think, the most prominent nonprofit that is acting to help people who have been injured or believe they have been injured. And is there any action being taken to try to help them? I know that, as we're recording here, there's about to be another hearing related to, the experiences of those people and the prospects of them getting help, because that in many cases they were not given it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, vaccine injury is real. I do believe that. I also think there were some cases of long COVID ascribed to long COVID when it may have been simply vaccine injury. Now, I'm not saying that's all of them. I don't want people to read too much into that, but I would like people to be patient with us as we try to approach this methodologically, collecting the proper data. It is easy to react. I was very angry when I learned that a friend's father had died from the COVID vaccine. And look, we're convinced it was causal until proven otherwise. You can always nitpick and say, well, this could have been a random event, but no. There are many reasons why we are confident that it was causal. Now, when I say we, not the FDA, but me and my circle of friends and loved ones who know this individual who lost their father. So people have a right to be angry. They have been deceived on different aspects of the COVID pandemic. They have been ordered to march into a vaccine line even if they were healthy and low risk and already had circulating antibodies. People have a right to be upset, but I would ask people to be patient with us as we do this the proper scientific way.
FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, I think if you're listening to that and you are in right-wing America, you're going to probably have one of two reactions. One reaction is, right on the money and keep doing what you're doing. And I hope that you're successful and that you eventually have what you need to be able to pull these shots off the market. Another reaction is, that's not good enough. Sweet nothings and a sense and agreements and your right to be angry, all of that rhetoric, empty it is. We need more action. I think that's going to be probably the story of the Trump administration, at least the first 2 years before the midterms. You're either going to have one of two reactions to people like that who obviously do not hate people like us, but are still hamstrung. You have to admit they are hamstrung by the federal bureaucracy. That is not an excuse. That's just the reality. And I do expect more actions to be taken in the near future. And finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. Quick air analysis today. I just want to say thank you for understanding. Over the past couple of weeks, a lot of spotty episode, a lot of inconsistency. With the day job, I have been exceedingly busy. Most of last week, I really didn't see my family at all. It's just in effect. So that's how busy I have been. And I know everybody's got busyness on their side, in their lives at all times. But that's just the reality sometimes, that this is still a side project. And I don't always have time, at least bandwidth, to do this, or at least do it well. So I appreciate everybody who stuck around. We'll see how many I actually did. I have kind of a framework, a rubric for content creation, podcasting. If ever anybody was to come to me and say, hey, I want to hire you to be a consultant to help me just produce a good podcast, not necessarily one that's going to be guaranteed to grow into the stratosphere, but just do I know that I'm doing a good job with the production of my podcast? And so one of the things that I talk about in that framework, in that rubric, is content, consistency, and quality. You can have two of those three things and still have an okay podcast, but all three, you're going to have a good one. May not mean that you have a huge audience, but at least you're doing a good job. And I fell short in one of those, really all three of those, because there was no episode when you typically expected there to be one, and that is in the consistency department the last couple of weeks. But I just wanted to say, again, thank you for understanding and coming back nonetheless. We should be back with more consistent, uninterrupted content, whether that's No Suck Saturday or weekend reviews on Sunday. So I just wanted to say thank you for understanding, and like I said, we'll be back with regular order from here on out, hopefully, God willing. Have a good Tuesday, back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.